Thanks everybody for joining. While we wait a few more minutes, I guess I can run through a couple quick housekeeping items. We have shared a link in our WhatsApp group, and that link is intended to uh, do some quick checks on logins. Um, what I mean is that, where there's a list of names that were received, and if you can just take a glance at the list, check and make sure your name and email address are correct. That's great. If your name and email address are correct, you probably got your login link already. You should be able to log in. If you weren't able to log in, we can just resend your welcome email. If your email address is incorrect, then of course reply in the chat and let us know that the email address is incorrect. We'll correct that. If your email address is missing, there may be a few reasons why that's happening, right? So the first reason may be that for some reason the information was missed. So we did import your school data and everything, but maybe there was some kind of lapse in the data and your user account wasn't created. If that's the case, we just have to quickly get Dixie to, okay it and let us know this user can be created. We'll create you and you'll have access to the system. The other reason could be that your data hasn't been imported into the system yet. Now, if you've submitted your data, please talk to the ministry. It may be that they're awaiting more data. Something critical may be missing or they need a clarification. It's best if that communication is just steady. They'll let you know if something's missing. If your data was not submitted, obviously you'll have to let them know when we can get some of that basic data in, just so that we can start populating the instance, and then you'll be able to run with it. The only other situation I could think of is that the data is with our team, so everything's ready, it's with our team. I can let you know that as far as the most recent check of, the completed data has been done, we have all the relevant data imported. So if you're not getting access to your system and there isn't like a small typo in the email or something, then we've imported all the data we've received from the ministry. And so more will come in as the batches come in. We'll get that out and we'll send the welcome emails out, right? But we'll troubleshoot. That's why we have the chat. We'll troubleshoot until everybody is at least logged in and seeing all the modules and everything. There are a couple little bugs that we had to resolve in terms of maybe the modules not showing for the Christmas term or the relevant roles not being there. As of this afternoon, earlier this morning, those issues should all be resolved. So if you have the relevant roles and you log in, you should see everything you need to. And if you're not seeing everything you need to, just drop a message in our WhatsApp group and we'll get you resolved as quickly as possible. I'm, pretty excited about how things are going. Obviously, there's going to be some teething pains as we figure out, all the little pieces, but yeah, I'm particularly very excited about how passionate everybody is in the group. I see some of the ambassadors helping each other. That's great. We're all going to work together and we're going to move this along. All right. Now we're at about 3:10, so I'm going to go ahead and start. As you know, we have shared the recording for yesterday's session, but we covered logging in and kind of checking your data and ensuring you're in the right terms and whatnot. I will show you that I'm working on a little checklist, and this checklist will be shared as soon as it's ready. But the idea of the checklist is to help kind of guide the process across the school. So something, I think it's on my screen now, you'll be able to see. And yeah, it kind of guides through the steps of the things that we're covering in the webinars between yesterday and today and everything. And so you'll be able to check that off as you go along, and we'll get to the point that like the attendance is being taken. So we'll provide some more materials, but of course we'll have these sessions as well, just so that we can be more hands-on, right? Let me close that tab because I was just playing around, and let's go ahead and get started on what we're working on today, which is going to be Let me just make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Yeah. So today we're going to be covering, the next steps, right? So we're assuming you've been able to log in and you've checked the data, and if you needed to import to the Christmas 2023 term, that's been done. And, if subject teachers or classroom teachers needed to be changed, that's also been done, right? If you haven't gotten that far along, that's okay. We have shared a recording for the session. We're working with everybody to get them at least at that point, to the best of our ability. And what we're going to focus on is the next steps from there. So what does that mean? Well, assuming you've come into your system and you have your classrooms in there and your subjects in there, and you've assigned the classroom and the subjects to the relevant teachers, then really the next steps would be ensuring that the population of, or the hydration, as we use in a more technical term, of the classrooms and the subjects has been completed. And that will require you to actually create some users. Now, there's a small caveat here, right? And that small caveat is that the users I'm talking about today are in particular students, right? So you may have a new batch of students coming in, and so we would want that new batch of students to be created, the first year students, pretty much, right? That's assuming that the data you submitted last, over the course of the summer was not the current term, the new term data. It's with the working assumption, the same kind of working assumption that we had yesterday, that whatever data was submitted was actually for summer term 2023. And so there's a couple steps that we need to do today. We need to create some users. We may need to update some information. We may need to do some promotions. All right. So we're over in our dashboard here on the left. You'll see, the home dashboard and everything, right? And we go to the classrooms and we know that our classrooms are good to go. The teachers have been updated, but we see that there's probably no students in the classrooms, right? Only if you had submitted current data, then, when you created your term and you imported from the previous term, you would have imported the students into the classrooms. However, if you log in and for whatever reason you're seeing that, there are students in my classroom like over here and I need to remove them because they may not be correct, that's pretty straightforward, right? So from within the classroom, you click on the classroom name, you click on the students tab, and then you see the students are here. Now, if I wanted to remove students one by one, I click on the kebab menu to the right of their name and I can click remove, right? And that will remove the student from the class, right? Now, alternatively, I may want to select all. Maybe I just want to remove everybody. Then I can use the checkbox here. I click remove, and that removes all the students from the classrooms, right? So whichever way is easier, if you needed to remove students from a classroom, that's the way you do it. Now, if the classroom was linked to subjects, right, at the primary school level, some of those links may have been done. I showed it a little bit yesterday, but this is also a step that you could potentially do now if you needed to. Particularly, keep in mind, this is for our primary schools. At the secondary school level, you don't necessarily want to link classrooms and subjects too much, because what you'll find happening is when a classroom and a subject is linked, adding a student to the classroom automatically adds them into the subject, right? Removing a student from the classroom removes them from the subject. That works in primary school settings where you have one homeroom and the students do all their subjects together. It doesn't work so much in high school where you start having little subgroups break off into different pools, option pools and whatnot. So just a quick reminder, if you did want to, like if you're a primary school and you needed to link or check if your classes are linked to your subjects, from the classroom, all you need to do is click on the subjects tab, right? And it will show you all the linked subjects there. If you're seeing no subjects in here, that means no subjects are linked, pretty much, right? If you are seeing the subjects there, then that means they're in there and they're linked, right? It's as simple as that. A subject not being here does not mean that the subject is not created, right? A subject, for example, if you're in grade 10, right, fourth form, and you have math class, but it's an option pool, that math class wouldn't show here because you can't link it to the classroom. You wouldn't, but it would still exist in the subjects module, right? So if there are any questions about that, if I need to go over it, put some questions in the Q&A and I'll rehash whatever we need to clarify. But to keep it very, very simple and straightforward, you've logged into the system, you came to the classroom, you see your class list should be 0, ideally, right? And then you can go into the classroom and you can see the subjects, you can see the linked subjects, right? Likewise, you can go to the subjects tab. Now, once again, unless you had a situation where you copied students into the classrooms and the subjects from the previous term, which you would only do if that data was as current as possible, right? Then in that situation, all you would need to do is, actually, you'd be good to go, right? Once you imported the data in, all the numbers would be fine, but all you'd really need to do is just do some quick quality checks, right? Because between when that next term data was submitted, let's say you submitted in May, and between May and now September, we've lost a couple students here and there, moved around, or we decided to shuffle a student around a classroom, right? There may be some minor tweaks that you have to make, but for the most part, you come to your classrooms, everything is filled out, it's populated with students. You could just go to the students tab and eyeball it and say, yeah, man, that look good, right? You go to the subjects tab, you look through the subjects, right? You can do it by grade or however you want, right? And, teacher or grade, and you can search on that too. And you just eyeball it and you say, yeah, man, all the subjects, they look good. The students in the subjects look good. You can click on the subject to go in there. There's a students tab there. You see all the subjects in well, this list has 0 currently, but let me go to a subject with a student in there. Maybe computer studies here. I see my list and I say, okay, yes, that's a student, or that's a group of students I expected in here. I'm good to go, right? But that's only going to happen in the situation where the data that was submitted was actually the Christmas term 2023 data, which, based on my understanding and my sync with the ministry, very few schools did. For the majority of you, what's going to happen, you'll come to your classrooms, everything will be 0 here. You'll come to your subjects, the student numbers will be 0 here. And you already, based on our meeting yesterday, updated the teacher and everything, and you're good to go on that front. And now you're just worrying about enrollments. Well, there's a couple ways to do that, right? First and foremost, you can use our promotions tool, right? But before I do that, actually, we could do the promotions tool first, and then we can do the new user creation. It makes a little bit more sense because you'd want to check the promotions first, right? You want to make sure the students actually exist, and then you want to plug in the gaps and create any missing students. Just backtracking a quick sec, we're only creating students, right? Not going to be creating teachers because the teachers will be managed from the ministry side of things. They'll be dealing with the transfers. We had some questions come in about a few situations where, a teacher is at my school, but they're no longer at my school. Do I need to delete them? You don't need to delete them, right? Because if the teacher is no longer at your school, they're not assigned to any classrooms. They're not assigned to any subjects. Even if they got a welcome email and they logged in, they would see nothing. Every user only sees what's directly relevant to them. You guys are seeing a lot because you have all these extra roles, these administrative roles, right? But the typical teacher, when they log in, they only see their subjects, they only see their student list. So if a teacher is in your school, but they have no subjects and classrooms assigned to them, they're effectively seeing nothing, right? Once the ministry sorts through with us how the transfer stuff, they'll be gone. You don't have to worry about deleting or inactivating them or anything like that. They'll be moved to where they need to be. And once they're over on that side, they'll be assigned to their classes and subjects as they need. Now, what if you had a teacher transfer in, but you're not seeing them in your system? Well, in that case, what we did in our default, as I showed you guys yesterday, in our default state, we just assigned all the classrooms and the subjects to Oh, let me switch terms. We assigned all the classrooms and the subjects to one user, right? Oh, that's not a good example, actually. Let me do a different school. In that case, what you would find is all the classrooms and all the subjects are all assigned to the same person. So if you needed a teacher to come in, but right now they're not in yet, just assign them to that default person. You know, in most cases, I think we tried to use a principal, but it may actually be the ambassador who it's assigned to, right? It's as easy as that. Once the teacher is transferred in, you know, the student list, everything, you can populate the classrooms and everything how you need to, you know, student list will be correct and all that. You just change the admin person, or sorry, you change the teacher to the actual teacher from whichever placeholder admin you put in there, right? It's as simple as that. All right, so let's go back to our trainer portal and let's talk about promotions first. So once again, you come into the system, classrooms and subjects are there, you did all your checks there, everything's good, and these are probably all zeros. I want to do my promotions now. I click on the Terms tab, Terms module on the bottom left, and there's a Promotions tab, and I click on that, right? Now, my current term has to be Christmas term 2023, right? The term that you're transferring into is set on the right. You don't want that to be different. So if you're not seeing Christmas term 2023 on your top left, remember to switch your term and go to Christmas term 2023 because that's the active term. That's the term we're in right now. Okay? You're in Christmas term 2023, you see the class that they're the term that they're transferring into. We're importing from the previous term. So the previous term in this case would be, let me go to terms here, let me switch just to make it a little bit more relevant with my schools. I go here, I go to terms, go to promotions, I have Christmas term 2023. I'm importing from summer term 2023, right? Once I do that, I choose my classroom. So let's say I want to do well, we're not starting with the form ones because the form ones would actually have some students coming in, you know, that are new. So let's say we're starting with the form twos, right? Form two. Well, actually, I could start from form one from last term, right? Because they're going to form two. So I start from form one, right? We're in summer term 2023. We have the students from form one, and I want to put them in form two. Now, in this case, for the school I'm showing, we haven't actually done the import from previous term and copied the classrooms and the subjects. So that's why it's saying no items found here. But going back to my trainer portal that actually has two different terms with two different classrooms. Let's say I have my grade one classroom here, and I'm moving my students to grade two, right? I removed the students from my classroom just now, so let me just add them back. Switch term. Generate the term. Go to my classroom, go to grade one Jackson, and let's just add in some students. Now, let me switch back. So, I'm in my terms, I'm in promotions. On the right, I'm seeing Christmas term 2023. That's where I want them to go to. I pick my previous term. In your case, that will be summer term 2023. I pick my classroom, and I see my list of students here, right? That's where I'm transferring from. I'm transferring them to grade two, right? So I select the classroom that I'm transferring from. I select the classroom that I'm transferring to. Now, if your group of students is just moving forward, like for a lot of the schools, primary and I think secondary as well, but definitely a lot of the primary schools, you have one classroom per year, right? For many of you, you have more than one classroom. That's fine. But for a lot of you, you have one classroom per year. Well, in a situation where you have one classroom per year, you know that every single student is going from grade one to grade 2. In that case, all you need to do is click on promote all, click save, and the students will be transferred over, right? That will move the students in from my grade 1 class into my grade 2 and 3 class, or my grade 2 class, let's, hypothetically say my grade 2 class in the current term, and that's it, right? I click save, I'm done. So let me go back up here really quickly. Let me make sure, okay, my grade 2 and 3 class is empty here. So I can go to my terms. I go to promotions, select my grade 1, select grade 2 and 3, right? If I did promote all, it would just put everybody over. Now, you may be in a situation where you have multiple classes. So it's not just one classroom and everybody can't just move forward, right? I can't just click one button and just move everybody forward a year, because my grade 1 class needs to be mixed and matched in grade 2. So let's assume I had 2 grade 1 classes, and from my first grade 1 class, Kevin is going to grade 2, or to this grade 2, right? And Mary Jane and Jack are going to a different grade 2 classroom, right? So I would select Kevin, I would click save, I would see that the promotion is being done, right? And once it's checked off, I'll know that the student has been promoted, right? It's as easy as that. Now, in my hypothetical scenario, I had one student from grade 1 Jackson go to this grade 2 class. Let's say these other 2 students go to a different classroom, right? I only have another grade 1 classroom here, but I could just select these 2 students and click save, right? They would be transferred over. And so promotions are as easy as that. You just pick the classroom you're coming from. If you batch promoting everybody as a collective group 1 year forward, you just click promote all and click save. If that's not the case, then you go ahead and you choose the individual classrooms that they go to, right? We'll come back over. Let's just refresh to be safe. Go to classrooms, and you see my classroom list got updated, right? So my classroom that was 0 before, now I come in here and I see Kevin moved over as expected. I moved him from grade 1 last term to grade 2 this term, and he's here now. And then just for fun, I moved the other 2 students to this grade 1 class, and you see that they're there too, right? And so that's how you can manage your promotions. Now, promotions to the classroom will only pool into linked subjects, right? So here I have mathematics linked, English linked, and computer studies linked. So if I go into mathematics, I didn't have it linked actually. But if I go into mathematics, it would have been linked, right? We'll be able to have it follow through. But let's say it failed. Let's say it didn't happen in that case, right? All I need to do, I can go into the subjects as needed, right? So it looks like my math for grade 2 and 3, that was linked, so the student was passed in, right? Just a quick rehash on how subjects are linked. You go into the subject, you click the gear icon and click edit. And in the optional classroom or pool, you'll see grade 2, right? You'll see the classroom there. And that just means any student added into the classroom will pool into the relevant subject as well. So if I came here and I went to my grade 2 classroom and I went to students and I removed the student from here, right? Student has been removed. Refresh just to be safe. I come up here, I go to mathematics, right? You'll see that now my mathematics is 0 because the subject was linked, the student was removed, right? So you can do that check. You just make sure your subjects are linked and they'll be removed, right? But that's only in the case of if, let me just add back Jack or Kevin. But that's only in the case where the subjects are linked. What about the unlinked subjects, particularly the ones with the pools, right? Well, in that case, I go to the subject and I see a subject here. Let's say it's English grade 1A. I can come in here. There's a students tab. I click add new and I can enable a classroom filter, right? So I know that all my students in grade 1A, they should be coming from grade 1 Andrew. So I can click on that. I look on the drop down, it will show me the students. Now, if all the students need to be there, then all I needed to do was link the subject and all the students would be in there, right? But in the case where it's subgroups of students or some students, I would select the relevant student. So in this case, I want Jack to come over here. I can go ahead and select Jack's name, select save, and Jack will be in the relevant subject. Okay, so that's how you populate your subjects and you populate and you do your promotions, and then you can populate the subjects and classrooms. Ideally, we're going to have a situation where, especially across all the primary schools, even the secondary schools, maybe like first form and second form, maybe third form, but not fourth form and fifth form, because you have the subject pools at that level. We should have a situation where the classrooms and the subjects are linked. So really all you're doing is you're coming to promotions, you're promoting the student into the classroom, and then once they're in the classroom, they'll pool into the relevant subjects as well, right? Because they'll be linked, and then you only have to deal with a couple stragglers, right? Ideally, it's a quick process. Now, in subsequent terms, of course, you won't even have to do things like promotions or classroom placements. Next term, when you come to the system, we'll just copy the data over, right? So the same import thing, but place the students in the classrooms, place the students in the subjects. And then if you've, lost a student or gained a student, then you just add those off, one by one, right? Now let's cover the situation where we did the promotions and everything. We'll come into the classroom and we say, boy, Jack and Mary are here, but there's actually a third student that isn't here, right? Let's say that student's name is, I don't know, Jason Brown, right? I don't see Jason Brown here. They weren't in my promotions list. What do I do? Well, that's when you can navigate to the Users tab. You click on Users, you click on Students, right? You'll see a list of all the students. If the student is already placed in a classroom, you'll see that the student is placed in a classroom. So any student that doesn't have a classroom beside them, they weren't placed. There could be many reasons that they weren't placed, but they weren't placed, right? Let's say I came here and I say, okay, Jason Brown is not here. I need to create him. So I'm in the Students tab. I see that Jason Brown is not here. If I need to search, I can actually search. This is pretty responsive in terms of searching. So you can search by first name or last name. You can sort it by gender if you needed to, but it looks like all my students. Oh, I created Mary Jane as a boy. Let me change her real quick. Okay, Mary Jane is now a girl, right? But I went through and, you can sort people and you can search them by classroom and all that, right? And you say, okay, Jason Brown is definitely not in here. Let me go ahead and add him. Well, you see this add new button here. You can click on that. You can type out their name, first name, last name, gender, an email address. If you have one, having an email address just makes life easier. But I know not everybody, particularly students, have an email address right now, so it's not required. And if you had any additional information and you wanted to just capture that one time, you can. But don't worry if you don't have all that additional information right now, because we're going to work with the ministry and figure out maybe a couple ways to help get some of that additional information in and fill some of those gaps. One of the potential paths we could take is maybe allowing the parents to go in and update their information and their children's information. So, there are a couple of different things to tackle that, and we're thinking about them as we go. But the only things you need to create a student: first name, last name, and agenda, right? You click save, the student will be created, right? So I have Jason Brown here, and I see that he's not assigned to a class. So I can come in here now, and I think I can actually just do it from here. Yeah, I can do change classroom and just assign him to a classroom one time if it's a one-off, right? But I can also always just go to the classrooms module, go to the students tab, and click the add new button. And this will only show me the students who are not already assigned to a classroom. So if a student is in a classroom already, it will not show them, right? So if I added a student in and I assign them to a classroom, then I come here, I click this drop down and I don't see that student, it's because they're already assigned to a classroom, right? but you can select the student and click save. Student gets added in, right? Any linked subjects at the grade 1 level? Let me just check. There are any linked subjects? Okay, I don't have any linked subjects for grade 1, but if I needed to create, like let's say yesterday we created a subject. So what would be a good linked subject? Let's say Spanish, right? Spanish for grade 1A. I put in a subject area, select the grade level, and I link it to the classroom, and Miss Jones can be the Spanish teacher, right? I can just put something like TBD in here. I click save. Spanish would be a linked subject, so it would create. And because I created it as a linked subject, it automatically just pulled in the students, right? So I don't have to go in and add them in. If I created an unlinked subject, so I didn't add a link there, then when it created, it would have a 0 here, right? So I go in, I add the students, but we may not necessarily want to add all the students, one by one adding student. That's perfectly fine if it's a one-off, but we may actually need to do some bulk imports, right? There's actually a bulk import creator, right? So you have this drop-down option right here, drop arrow, you click it, you click bulk import, and you will see that builder comes up. If you right click on this, you can insert a row below. If you right click on it, you can remove the row, right? But there's some required fields that you need to enter. So let's say we wanted to add in 3 or 4 students, and let's say you had an Excel sheet somewhere else, right? Just make sure your Excel sheet has the columns like this, and you'll be able to just copy and paste the columns one at a time, right? So let's say from my Excel sheet, my pretend Excel sheet somewhere, I have 3 students coming in, and boy, I'm gonna have to guess some names now, and I'm gonna be Jane, Smith. Oh, I didn't use Smith already. I put in female, right? Because Jane's a girl. Nothing else is required, but if I have the information, I should definitely fill it out. Let me do a boy now, Chris. And I really don't know where these names are coming to me from, but let's just do it. And then let's see a third name. You know what? I'm just going to look at my participant list and steal 2 names. Okay, so let's do Anella, and then last name Cobbler, right? And then I come over here and I have female there, right? These are my 3 people. I don't have any of the other information, but I just copy it and paste it. I click save. It should come through and just bulk create them, right? So you can just bulk create the students. You don't have to do them one by one. And then as you bulk create them, I think you can always go to the classroom. How I recommend you do it is you create all the students in a given classroom at once, right? Because then you can go to the classrooms tab and go to the students and click add new, and only the students you just created will be there. So if I only created the 3 students that were in grade 1, Andrew, I can come here and click select all and save, and they just get added in one time, right? Easy as that. If you go through and you bulk import a bunch of students from a bunch of different classrooms, then of course, in that case, and I'm just kind of double checking here. Yes, I have my Spanish class here, and my Spanish class is linked, and you see that they automatically pulled into here. But if I created a bunch of students from different classrooms and I bulk imported them once, and when I came to add new here, well, obviously the list is empty because there are no unassigned students, but I would have to select the students from a drop down. So let me remove a couple of students to show what I mean. Let's remove you. Let's remove you. Let's remove you. Refresh the page. So I have 3 students in here. I click add new. Let's say only Jason Brown and Anella Cobbler were supposed to be in there. Mary Jane wasn't. When I did my bulk import, I had her too. I would end up having to add in, select them and not select Mary. So I couldn't just click select all one time. and make it quicker. So it's really up to how you want to do it. Obviously, that's not the only place where you can do it. You can also, in the users tab, when you create the users, when you create the students in particular, you can also just change classroom and assign them, right? Now, in our chat, we saw something about parents, right? Yeah, in the system, you can actually link children and parents. In the WhatsApp chat, at least, I remember, I mean, I just glanced it because I was coming into this from another meeting, but I saw that there was something about linking parents to children and whatnot. Well, once you get to the parents tab, you can actually bulk import, or you can create a parent. And, maybe I should create a parent. Let's say Miss Cobbler has a father. Apple. No, Apple's not a good name. Kevin Cobbler. Right, that's the father, and we actually give him an email address, and we'll click save. Well, once Mr. Cobbler is made here, I can actually add children. Look at the drop down, and I see Anella Cobbler there. I got through. I click save, and then Anella will be linked to the parent, and you'll actually be able to see the relationship and everything. I guess it's right now, it's just not configured for that, but that will all be done, so you don't have to worry about it. So you can go in here, and if you see add edit parents, you can see that Kevin is, the parent there, but Kevin is linked. So those kind of links will happen. Let's see, parents are showing here. Okay, no. So we just have to, well, actually, there's a parent tab. Yeah, so Kevin is there, and you'll see Kevin as a parent. So it's, pretty straightforward. You'll be able to link parents, but what I would say right now, parents can be added after attendance has started to be taken, right? So I would say focus on let's getting in any missing students, let's getting them into the classrooms. We want to make it so that it's easy for the teachers to take attendance. Once everything is set and you guys are good to go, and the teachers are taking attendance, then behind the scenes, somebody can, create parents and add them in. Or like I said, we may just have a process for it. We can troubleshoot and figure that out. It's really important to get the parents in, but most likely the first major touch point for the parents will be a little closer to the end of the term when they want to see end of term reports, right? Prior to that, of course, there are going to be a few parents who are just eager to get in and to see the system and stuff. So, hopefully over the course of the next few weeks, we can get them in. But those are the main things I wanted to cover. Oh, the only other thing I wanted to cover is if you needed to edit information for somebody, let's say a teacher had an incorrect email address or something, you could come in here and you can click edit profile, and all the information that's in there, maybe an email address was wrong, you can just correct that and click save, right? Same thing for the students, anything that you needed to edit, if you need to update profile information, maybe a name is spelled wrong or something, just click edit profile and you can update that information, right? It's pretty straightforward. Once the user is created, if you did add an email address for them, you can actually send the welcome email address. And just like you guys had a welcome email, they would have a welcome email as well, right? Now, as we move forward and we get more usage in the system, there are other things that you can do with users as well. Let's say a student didn't pay school fee, or I should say the parent didn't pay school fee, and we decide, okay, until they make things right, or maybe a student is suspended, or for whatever reason we want to block access to their access to the system specifically, we have the ability to quickly block them, and that will make sure that they're not able to log in. But we'll dive into some of those additional things later. The main focus right now, let's get them into their classrooms. Classrooms and subjects should be right. Get them into their classrooms, and then they'll be able to take attendance. We'll talk about attendance a little bit tomorrow, but really and truly, once the classrooms are made, subjects are made, teachers are correctly assigned, and the students are in the classrooms, that's pretty much it. The teachers are then ready to take attendance in the system. So we're pushing towards that. And as we, cover every milestone, then we tackle anything that comes up in between, right? I think that covers everything I wanted to do for today. Yep, I think that covers everything. I will now turn to the Q&A and see if there are any quick questions that I can answer. And then we can, save the recording and everything, and we can take things offline from there, right? Okay, so first question, Mr. Woods, I see. Should the grade 6 students from last school year be removed from that class? Good question. If your data is current, right, then you would be pulling the students in to grade 6 as they should be. They'll be correctly assigned, right? That's if you're one of the few schools who submitted, Christmas term 2023 data to the ministry. For the rest of the schools, all that would happen is that when you're doing your promotions, right, you would be over in terms, promotions, you'll be transferring from. You would never reach the point where you're transferring from grade 6. So those students would be in the system, but they would no longer, you wouldn't be adding them into any classrooms on the transferring to side, right? Now, a little later on, once we figure out, like with the grade 6 students, we'll touch base with the ministry on this, but it's possible that the ministry will say that, the transferring of them over to the high school side will be happening either on the ministry side, or we'll have some kind of mechanism for that. Or alternatively, it might just be a situation where all you need to do is come into the users module, right? And you just graduate the student. So you click on the name and you say graduated is there, and you graduate them. Once you graduate them, they're gone. But regardless, they shouldn't be doing anything in the system that would disrupt you, right? Can the admin moving on to the next question. Can the admin at each respective school make other teachers admins, such as the IT teachers, try to set the school, but those teacher profiles are still listed as teachers, not admins? Okay, so how the system works, Ms. Marshall, is that it's roles based. So if you're a teacher, a member of staff, so the ancillary staff really, or an admin with like a specific administrative role, like the principal or vice principal, bursar. Regardless of what user type you're able to do what you need to be able to do, right? So you can be a teacher. In fact, many of you on my ministry side, just so you know, many of you are actually teacher accounts, right? Because many of the ambassadors are actually teachers who, the ministry worked out to either volunteer or to just help out, however, and we gave you the relevant roles, right? So in that case, you do have a teacher account and the role was assigned. That all being said, the roles are quite powerful in the sense that if you're given certain roles, you have access, you may be privy to or be able to manipulate certain data, right? And so we'd have to touch base with the ministry on this, and the ministry would have to have some kind of say as to what the protocol is. We're going to do some standard operating procedures. We've actually shared a document with the ministry already, but the ministry will fine tune it and they'll share it out as to what the correct protocol is for assigning roles and for filling needs. But regardless, if you have a need where you need to assign certain roles to a teacher and give them access to certain things, I think it should, at some level, it should still be, it should go through the ministry, right? Just to make sure that somebody doesn't get access to things that they shouldn't necessarily have access to. I hope that answers your question. Oh, font. My apologies. I didn't see the request to increase my font size. Let me try to increase it now. But hopefully when I share the recording, we can, well, I don't know that video players actually have Zoom, but hopefully it's a little bit more clear when you're looking on that because it will resize it. Okay, Mr. Woods is still not seeing term on the left. So what we would do, you can drop a message in our group, right? And we'll figure out why you're not seeing term on the left. But I think everybody who should have the role should be seeing terms now. So it's possible that the role just wasn't assigned to you. In promoting students, if I made an error, I have to reset and start over. There needs to be a way to delete one child rather than resetting and starting over. Yeah, good suggestion. I will definitely take that to the engineering team, and we're going to try and push something. I mean, we've been quick, but depending on how much we need to cover in terms of a feature request or anything like that. Okay, so I think that's every question. I don't know why the recording chipped out for a bit, but we covered most of the questions. And of course, if there are any other questions, then we can always take that offline. And we have our group chat, and my team is working around the clock. We're trying to get everything addressed as we go, and we're gonna get there. And as I mentioned, we're working on some documents and stuff that just helps kind of. I know, because I know there's information going back and forth. The chat is very, very active, so we don't want things to get lost in the communication. So we'll share some of that documentation as soon as it's going on a rolling out basis. As soon as it's ready, it will be shared. Likewise, the webinars will be shared, and so you'll be able to follow along. And if you have any questions, or I see a couple cases where somebody's not seeing something or doesn't have access to something, drop it in the chat and we're just addressing it as we go. All right. So thank you everybody again for your time. Tomorrow's session will be on taking attendance and doing some of the attendance summaries. So if you're a school that did have teacher emails go out, you can actually share the webinar link with them, and they can tune in too, right? Even if they're not ready yet to actually log in and take their attendance, it may still be a good opportunity for them to just see it. And if not, the recording will be there, and you can always share and distribute the recording to your teachers, and they'll be able to see how to take attendance. So we'll cover a couple things. I'll cover a couple administrative things like turning on subject level attendance and whatnot. And then we'll actually look at taking attendance. We'll also, depending on the timing of things, we'll also look at, if there are any outstanding things from, the questions or anything. Just like I did a little quick check-in earlier today where I gave updates on certain recurring questions and stuff that came up. We'll do that. All right. So thanks again, everybody, for joining. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to continuing, the conversations on the webinars and seeing everybody get engaged and pumped with the system. All right. Have a good day.